So, I had a couple other videos planned for this week, but a little thing came up, and maybe want to talk about that instead. Not a tragic thing, but it is a case of an ending, and that is the ending of a career of a person who, I'm not going to say is super important to me, personally, but the impact he has had is important. So, let's rewind a bit. Let's go back to when I'm in middle school, and I learn about a musician, who I'd not heard of before. Not surprising, that happens to lots of people all the time. In this case, he's doing a support musician does a song parody. I was on a road trip or something like that. Somebody puts a tape in the car, in the tape player, and plays, and the song comes on called, parody of the song Lola by, the original musician just utterly fell out of my head. So this is the Kinks. Yeah. So the parody of the song Lola by the Kinks, except it's not, specifically the song is Star Wars themed. It's about Yoda. It's discussing events of a movie that I haven't actually seen yet. I have seen A New Hope. I have seen Return of the Jedi. They've aired on television. We've taped them. I watched them over and over again. And the special edition VHS releases aren't out yet, and we never got around to picking up the big THX box set of the full trilogy. I'll edit that chunk out. So, I hear the song Yoda, and it's by a musician I've never heard of before named Weird Al Yankovic. And I think this song's great. I think this song's fun. I enjoyed it immensely. I go searching for a bunch of his other stuff, and obviously, with the way this goes for when you're my age and inexpensive and don't have a lot of money on your allowance, and you don't have a car, and you don't have a record store in your town, the way you find new music is you go to the library, and you search the card catalog, regular and electronic. At this point, it's electronic card catalog. It's a bunch of dummy terminals with with black and white or black and amber computer screens, and you plug it and start looking for Weird Al Yankovic, and you start checking out albums and that sort of thing. And you dig it, and you like what he's doing. And then the movie UHF comes on television, because you have cable at this point, and you watch it, and this guy's great. And then you find that as part of, I think in an upcoming album at that point. So VH1 did a marathon of a bunch of his music videos and a airing of a Behind the Music episode about Al. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch that and learn what I can about him, because at this point Al hadn't written a memoir or anything like that. So I watch this and I learn about that Al got his start singing a song to a radio show called Dr. Demento. And like all of his songs that had come out at this point, all of his singles had made it through The Good Doctor. And that Dr. Demento got his start in Oregon, which is where I am, though in Eugene at the radio station there for the University of Oregon, as opposed to my parents' alma mater, Oregon State University. So, on the one hand, he's with them, and he attached to that university. But on the other hand, he brought us Weird Al, so he can't be all bad. And ultimately, I end up finding out what radio station he's on. Because over the course of time, I get access to the internet on a more regular basis, and through high speed and otherwise, and I learn, I'm going to go look up what radio stations carry Dr. Demento, in particular, what radio stations in Oregon, and once I find out what stations do, I determined that, yes, in fact, I do get those stations. I can pick up the terrestrial radio station at my home. And great. And so I listened, and so throughout, by this point, I'm now in high school, and for basically the rest of high school, partway into college, I listened to Dr. Demento every Sunday night. I stay up later than I probably should, to listen to the full show, to make it all the way to the end in the Funny Five, to the top 5 most requested novelty songs or humorous songs of the week. I check out from the library the collections of various Dr. Demento albums where he has curated a selection of songs that are frequently requested on the show, like "They're Coming to Take Me Away," haha, or this is how I learned about Tom Lehrer and his tracks like "Poisoning Pigeons in the Park" and the periodic table of the elements, and but in particular his more politically pointed songs like "We'll All Go Together When We Go," and so picking that up as well, and so this just kind of expands my musical horizons of not just novelty acts as humorous music, not just stuff like "Hello Mudda, Hello Fada" by Alan Sherman, but pointed, like politically focused songs, and satirical of general points with society. And while eventually I ended up falling for various reasons, like work related, like I can't stay up late as much anymore. I can't fall asleep in class because I'm not in school anymore. I'm in the workforce, and also I'm driving to work, and it's kind of not safe to drive when you're half asleep. So I ultimately dropped off of listening to Dr. Demento, but that was an important part of my adolescence and the formation of a chunk of my musical taste. So I'm recording this on June 21st, and I have learned today that the good doctor has announced that he is going to retire. Dr. Demento will retire in October, where he will do a final show with a career retrospective, and also a top 40, not just a funny 5, but a funny 40 of some of the top songs that played on the Dr. Demento show over the course of his long, venerable 55-year-long career. So that's a big deal. It's like Dr. Demento is sort of a vintage is the wrong term, but of a kind with like Svengoolie and Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, of these larger-than-life personas who brought you these weird, wonderful, and amazing things that you would not necessarily have seen before, who provided interstitial commentary, cracked jokes, and expanded your horizons for what music could be, or what film could be in the case of Elvira and Svengoolie, and brought whole new, just expanded your worldview in respects. Were everything that Dr. Demento played, or everything Elvira showed on her program, good? No. But that wasn't necessarily the point, either. Sometimes failure can be entertaining. Sometimes on purpose, sometimes not. And I think that these performers are serve an important place and fit in an important place in, if not global popular culture, then at least Americana. You don't hear about anyone quite like Dr. Demento as a radio show host on the BBC, for example. It's the kind of thing that you can have when you have something like the geographical widespread environment of like the United States or Canada or even Mexico, probably. I suspect Mexico almost certainly has their own Spanish language equivalent of a Dr. Demento. Someone who has a bigger-than-life, humorous persona, presenting satirical, comedic, parodic music to audiences. And possibly even a similar thing for a Spanish language Elvira. Someone who operates not in the mainstream on the big establishment television stations, but in the gaps, in the smaller local channels that occasionally get picked up and carried over elsewhere just because they catch on. Again, Svengoolie falls in this category as well. And there's something that is, on the one hand, lost there, We still have ways for musicians and TV for musicians in old classic films to get this degree of traction and widespread exposure these days that we did back then. But the means are very different. Now, like, I know about, like, if I was going to say who was a modern Weird Al, who was a modern, or not even Weird Al, but a modern Alan Sherman, a novelty musician, one who does music that is tongue-in-cheek and parodic, that satirizes elements of society and pokes fun. Like, I think of Tom Cardy, but Tom Cardy, like, some of it is the algorithm, and some of it is getting shared to it by your friend. It's hoping that the algorithm surfaces it to your friends, and then they share it with you. Or their friends share it with you. It's depending on going viral. And certainly someone like Dr. Demento, someone like Svengoolie, someone like Elvira would do that for music and film. But reaching someone like that is a point where you get a wider degree of exposure. At the moment where you got big. It's one thing when your song gets a certain number of downloads on Spotify or hits on TikTok or YouTube Shorts to certain audiences. It's something else when, oh yes, Dr. Demento played them on my show. Now I know I've made it. No one caught on to my old movie back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. So I'm settled with what my small royalties that I get. And then one day, it gets promoted on Elvira, it gets promoted on Svengoolie, it ends up on Mystery Science Theater 3000, and now all of a sudden, your B film that may have been a labor of love for you, but otherwise did not necessarily like hit it big, hit it up, become a part of the zeitgeist. Now it is exposed to a new audience, and now people grow a new appreciation for it and gets a new set of eyes. I imagine, like, while MST3K films are known for being bad, are explicitly chosen for being comedically bad, I, on the other hand, suspect that, like, the director of Cry Wilderness probably had a certain degree of appreciation, and I'm glad that a whole new chunk of viewers are seeing his Sasquatch movie in ways they weren't before. To a degree, like, there were YouTube critics like, the Amanda Hagen, like the Nostalgia Critic, like Cinema Snob, like Obscurus Lupa, who, or Alison Pregler, who covered this stuff, and still do. But like also, Nostalgia Critics never, like, eventually kind of dropped off of being fun in terms of doing a great job of shifted away from exposing that form of obscurity of these weird and off-kilter films. Cinema Snob kind of did that, still kept doing that, but also his focus was very much on the exploitation genre, and not necessarily comedy. I mean, to a certain degree, it's hard to make fun of comedy, but also, it's, you don't quite get that same, but you don't seem as much grabbing like weird 1950s, 1960s horror films that weren't of the shock exploitation sort of movies. Of your director's name just fell out of my head, but your Herschel Gordon Lewis's. Like, he didn't go up that much outside of the Herschel Gordon Lewis territory in terms of older films. So, with all that said, I want to say I'm glad that I'm doing this video as while the good Dr. Demento is still with us, alive. And I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to Dr. Demento for 55 years, wonderful years of bringing joy, comedy, and merriment, and expanding the worldviews and perspectives of numerous listeners like myself. I hope that you can't be replaced, but I hope that someone that you inspire. Well, you already have inspired. I want to say that Nash Bozart of Radio Dead Air, to a certain degree, has served a bit of this for me. And that's how I got my first exposure to Tom Cardy. And I hope that, while shoutcasting music streams are less of a thing now than it was in the past, particularly because of the aggressive copyright enforcement actions of the RIAA and others, I hope that people find ways to follow in your footsteps and learn from your example to serve as a mechanism for presenting and exposing artists like the ones, Dr. Demento, that you have done in the past, to new audiences, younger, not just my age, but younger audiences, Gen Z and beyond. So, they say that you need to, for the sake of the algorithm, have some sort of mechanism or call for action in your end of your video. So here's a good one, an important one. What are your memories of Dr. Demento? Were you a listener of The Good Doctor? Did you pick up any of his compilation albums? Please let me know in the comments below. Share your stories about Dr. Demento. We have, again, video is planned to come out several months before his final episode, so I will find a link to places that has an index for where you can listen to his show, so that you can listen to it and enjoy these past few months of Dr. Demento on the radio. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. And also consider backing my Patreon. Patreon backers get episodes up to 1 week early of this show and any future Let's Plays. Also, please consider backing my Ko-fi. Toss me a few bucks also helps support the show, and it's not a monthly obligation or anything like that.